Alrighty, so I finally got back home to talk about this big news that happened today, and obviously this has been a news that I'm pretty sure Sporting KC fans has been waiting for a very long time. I mean, it's been a long time coming that eventually we're going to see Peter Vermes eventually get fired by Sporting KC, and alas, today was finally the day where Sporting KC finally pulled the trigger and their longest 10-year head coach, and right now the longest active 10-year head coach in MLS by firing Peter Vermes after 15 plus years or so. Now, obviously, we're definitely going to talk about the legacy of Peter Vermes and what he means to Sporting KC in just a bit. I might even make a video talking about his legacy with Sporting KC because throughout the 15th season, he's definitely done some incredible things for the Sporting KC side. But the bottom line is, we knew the writing was on the wall. And I think what's kind of interesting that this team, after just a couple of days, when their main supporter group, the Culture, actually released a statement for Peter Vermes' resignation, and you know that things are definitely serious when the Cauldron is making that kind of statement, because from what I heard from Sporting KC fan, they've said that the Cauldron has seems to almost use as a propaganda tool toward the front office. They're kind of a group that doesn't really speak out too much, even when things does not go well, and it's kind of got to a point where if you're gonna piss off the Cauldron so much, even though they're so backed by the front office, something has kind of clearly gone wrong. And again, everything has gone wrong for the Sporting KC side. It's not just because of this incredible long winless run that they have. It's now 190 plus days since they last got a win, going all the way back to September of last year. But it's just simply, Peter Remy's time with Sporting KC was going to run short uh, in these last couple of years. Like the way that things have really got stale with this team, the numerous winless run that they had to begin the season, and the fact that they're clearly in a decline in the last couple of seasons, missing out on playoffs and kind of just barely made it to the playoffs just a couple years ago. You knew the firing was going to happen. But that being said, despite the fact that obviously Sporting KC fans got their wish of Peter Remis removing from this team and finally get a fresh new voice to maybe rejuvenate this team, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not if that is the case. I mean, I will kind of reiterate of what we saw with a couple of long time coaches in MLS, and the fact that when they finally got fired, things would usually go well, and sometimes things doesn't go well. We look at for the Union, things definitely have gone well with the Philadelphia Union, at least right now after letting go of longtime head coach Jim Kern and bringing Bradley Carnell, and things seems like it's going well early in the season for the Union, and we'll see whether that continues, or it could be like what we saw in the DC United case when they finally removed Ben Olsen, which is another situation where DC fans were kind of getting fed up with Ben Olsen and the staleness that was going on with the club with him being there for so long, and unfortunately things have kind of not gone so well for that club too, even after this dismissal of Ben Olsen. And this is where I want to bring out the fact that Peter Mays might not actually be the entire problem of Sporting KC decline. I think it is pretty clear that there is deeper issue with this team. It goes into the front office and even in terms of the ownership group as well, where I'm pretty sure some Sporting KC fans feel like the ownership group has gone incredibly cheap in the past couple of years and aren't as ambitious as it used to be. Although I never kind of feel like that. I feel Sporting KC still are very ambitious when you just look at some of the signings that they had, and for a small market team like that, they've done a really good job in terms of getting the best out of their players and spending uh, wisely in terms of their investment. That just have not been the case in the last couple of years, especially that's where you got to ask the office and the people that is making these signings that some of these signings just have not worked out whatsoever, and also ignoring the most obvious glaring issue of this team. And we knew for the past couple of years the defense has been a glaring issue with this team, and the fact that they really didn't address that this season, and the fact that they were more worried about trying to replace the attack, which I feel like they had to, because some of their core pieces from the previous core has departed, with the likes of Polito and Johnny Russell, with them uh be no longer on the team. They had to find some replacement, but the fact that they only did that and not fix the defense. That was a really glaring issue, and also not to mention them not really have a perfect plan to try to replace another club legend in Tim Melia in goal. Again, that goes back to the front office, and I've heard a lot of Sporting KC fans that said that it's not just Peter Vermes that needs to be fired from this team. It has to be Jake Reed as well. He's another big issue with this team in terms of some of the signings that he's made and the operation that he's done with this team. Clearly not up to par to a point where it's almost like he doesn't really care about the club anymore, and the club doesn't really care about the fans as what we seen a couple years ago. But with that being said, obviously I want to go into talking about Peter Vermes' legacy with Sporting KC, and that again, it truly is the end of an era for Sporting KC. Not only the fact that Peter Vermes has been a head coach for this team since 2009, but he's with this club for 25 plus years. He started his time with Sporting KC as a player, eventually, obviously getting promoted all the way to the head coaching role since 2009. So again, that's kind of shows you why Sporting KC for a long time had that reluctancy of deciding to fire him, because the loyalty is definitely there, not just going back to when he's being the head coach of the team going back to 2009, but also just simply with the fact that he's been with this club for almost a quarter century now, and is definitely very well loved when it comes to when things are going well in the Sporting KC fan base, and especially well loved in the front office as well. And what he has done with this club is definitely going to go down as one of the most successful story of a head coach in MLS history. I think he's like the fourth winningest head coach, if I'm not mistaken. He obviously won an MLS Cup back in 2013. I think he won four U.S. Open Cup with Sporting KC, if I'm not mistaken. And there's also numerous times where they finished first place as well. I think he was able to guide that team to four first place finish. Now, obviously, there's no doubt that I think some people will also say that his legacy probably would have been stronger if one of the biggest issue for Sporting KC throughout all those good SKC side under his tenure is the fact that they just can't get it done when it comes to the playoffs. But still, the fact that he was able to build this team and for a really long time, beginning when he first took over this team all the way up to around I believe 2019-ish kind of time, the fact that they were consistently making the playoffs, they had one of the longest active playoff streak out of any MLS team. That is something that is really hard to replicate in this league, no matter what team that you have and what kind of talent that you have. And of course, nowadays in the days where MLS just like other leagues around the world, where the coaching kind of tenure with each MLS team is definitely shorter than ever before. You usually see teams decide to oust their head coach after just a couple of years to just bring in a fresh voice. The fact that Peter Vermes was able to continue to deliver in terms of the tactics that he has throughout that long of a period, and also doing different periods when MLS was started getting better. Yeah, what a career that he of course has. And again, like I said I probably might do a video about his entire time, similar to kind of like a career video of a player's, but instead I might do a career video of Peter Vermes in terms of his head coaching roles with Sporting KC. And what I'm also interested to know is the fact that whether or not if he's going to be now coaching with another team, because we've seen this before where a head coach that has been with a club for a very long time, that doesn't mean the fact that they're just simply going to hang up their boots and not coach for another team. As I mentioned, Ben Olsen, a longtime head coach with DC United, he's now with the Houston Dynamo. There's some sense that Jim Curtin could potentially be back in the MLS world, and a team might pick him up as soon as he decided to announce that he wants to get back into coaching role after spending these last couple of months for personal family reason. And this might be the same case for Peter Vermes. I mean, I'm pretty sure Peter Vermes probably won't jump straight back into the MLS job, and I do think that he still is a decent head coach in general. Yes, his tactics might be a little bit stale, but he still can get resort if you get the right team and the right investment for him. And I'm pretty sure there are teams that currently don't have a head coach right now that is much trio and maybe some other team as the season goes along, as we see the coaching carousel really start to spin around, that teams are going to look to try to get Peter Vermes as their next head coach. But it'll be very interesting to see where he's going to go next, and that we'll see whether or not if he's going to be similar to what we see with Jim Kern, where after being a head coach for so long now, he might want to take a break and regroup himself to a point where maybe he'll have some fresh ideas of how his next coaching tenure is going to be, because there's no doubt that he's not going to return. He's too young of a head coach, in my opinion, to just simply give up on coaching. I think there's going to be another MLS team that is going to give him another shot in the near future. And speaking of coaching, now it's going to also be interesting to see what Sporting KC is going to do with their new head coach, because again, this is a very unfamiliar position that the Sporting KC side found themselves. This is the first time in 15 plus years that they had to make this decision of finding a new head coach, and we'll see whether or not if their current interim head coach will do well. I mean, we've seen some teams have tried to promote within, where they decided to see how their interim head coach does. If he does relatively well, there might be a chance where they might be promoted within. So we'll see whether or not if Sporting KC is going to do that, because there are still some good coaching market. Again, Jim Curtin might be a great example. We'll see whether or not if Sporting KC might think about bringing him. I mean, I know Jim Curtin says that he's probably not going to be in the market in terms of getting back in the coaching role, at least until the end of the season. But if Sporting KC will want to wait until that time, it could be a case that he could be available as their new head coach. But either way, like I said, for Sporting KC, this they feel like it's like winning an MLS up for them, because for a very long time it's been so overviewed that they had to replace or not Jim Curtin, I'm sorry, but Peter Vermes, that is, and that you could argue this move probably should have happened a couple of years ago, especially after that disastrous season that they had a couple years ago, where they finished, I think, like 13th position. That was probably the year that they probably could make this move, because again, it is pretty clear that Peter Lee's time with Sporting KC was running short in the last couple years, and now we'll see what Sporting KC is going to do heading into a brand new era. And there's no doubt that with a new interim head coach, maybe things will be different. Maybe this team will go on a run, as we usually see with a new interim head coach boost. And especially with the way that, from what I heard, a lot of Sporting KC fans feel like Peter Vermes is one of the main reason why the team is not performing well, and feels like the team clearly aren't playing for him. Maybe that might be a case where a new voice coming in and new fresh of ideas might actually re-energize this team and get themselves out of this hole, and most importantly, finally win their first game in a couple of months. Because I think right now the baby step of this new transitional moment that the Sporting KC franchise is going through is the fact that they need to win a game. They need to finally end this long winless run, and we'll see whether or not if they can do so. I mentioned in terms of that winless video, they do have some winnable games upcoming, and we'll see whether or not if they can do that in the near future as well. But there you have it. That is pretty much it. Talking about Sporting KC and the big news of Peter Remis finally being fired. Again, a relatively long video, because again, this is something that I'm pretty sure Sporting KC fans been waiting for a very long time. It's been a long time coming. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this news, and let me know in the comments below if you're Sporting KC fans. Obviously, you're very ecstatic in terms of finally having one of the main problem of this team being removed of his removed from his duties. But is there going to be more fixing that needs to be done, and how is this new era of Sporting KC is going to look like? But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.